In the wake of this huge, momentous legislative achievement for Democrats this week in health reform, it is back to the starting line for both parties in terms of what to do next in politics. And this is how they've gotten out of the gate. Joining us now is Democratic Congressman Anthony Weiner of New York. Congressman Weiner, thanks very much for coming in tonight.
It's my pleasure. Thanks.
Now that the health reform fight is done for now, we are starting anew in terms of legislating. What do you see as the main to do with the sort of political capital they earned on health reform?
Well, I think we've kind of set up this paradigm that's exactly the way it looks, which are Democrats are trying to solve problems. We don't always get it perfect, and sometimes we have internal battles, but we're trying to figure out a way to move the ball forward. And the Republicans are stuck in this place that they don't really have an agenda beyond stopping us from doing stuff. Now, admittedly, it's sometimes pretty easy to stop us from doing stuff. Sometimes we can do it all alone without their help. But I think the American people of all political stripes ultimately want government to work. They want it to accomplish things. And actually, I believe that the American people admire the idea that we believe things and are trying to achieve them, even if they're not 100% with us on every line of it. So we have this dynamic that their entire raison d'etre in the Republican Party is to gum up the works. You saw Coburn do it. You saw Republicans pledge every single day that they're going to try to stop us from getting anything done. We're going to try to relieve the burden on homeowners. And it's not just for the people that are going to get the relief. If you live next door to a foreclosed house, you're having a pretty bad day. We're going to try to figure out a way to lift the middle class up by trying to get the economy going again. Healthcare is a big part of that. Student loans are a big part of that. All these arguments that two things don't go together. No, they exactly go together. They're the two biggest things that middle class people worry about: going bankrupt because of health care and not being able to afford to send their kids to college. And we're going to keep trying these things. And I think the president realizes that if the Republicans want to go backwards and keep litigating health care reform, okay, because it's just going to reinforce the idea that we're moving in the other direction.
The other thing that is still out there in politics, and I realize it's gotten a lot of ink and a lot of attention in the past couple of days, and I don't want to overdo it, but I know it personally affected you in terms of your office receiving some specific threats, and I know that it's something about which I am very concerned, and that is the idea that the anger that's out there in the country about political matters has been channeled into both violence and threats in the form of intimidation. In terms of your specific experience, what you've been through, what you think is going on in the country right now, how does it make you feel to see Sarah Palin saying that this is a side issue, it's a diversion, we shouldn't be talking about it?
Well, first of all, you got to wonder if there's a little thought bubble what John McCain is thinking standing behind that one. What happened to John McCain? He used to be someone that, stood up for what he believes. Now he's become captive to this Tea Party thing also. The mistake that Sarah Palin is making is that, yeah, we know it's a metaphor to say to target members and to put them in the crosshairs. The problem is I've watched my mail, and maybe I've led with my chin more than most people, so I get more mail than most people. You see the gradual movement of the line, and you can see how crazy out there doesn't understand it's a metaphor, and that reload is not just a figure of speech. And I've gotten a bunch of mail, most of it reasoned, some of it very passionate, but a few folks who clearly don't understand that Sarah Palin's talking in metaphors, and she needs to understand that. That's part of being a leader in this country, is saying to your own crazies, you've got to dial it down some. We saw in Congress in the last 10 days people getting into the House gallery and heckling and being cheered by Republican members. Republican members saying to another, you're a baby killer. Republican members standing on the portico of the Capitol building, urging on people who at the same time were cursing and were saying anti-Semitic and racist things to members of Congress. The Republican Party has to realize it's their responsibility to stand up against that kind of thing, not just say, oh, everyone is doing it.
On the issue of what our national conversation is, it's one thing to talk about the tone of it and the appropriateness of it and whether or not it crosses the line and it isn't anymore a conversation. It's another thing to think about the big ideas that we're actually fighting about. A lot of conservative friends that I have, Republican friends that I have, and I do have conservative and Republican friends, have been saying to me for a long time, what we want is a big picture, big ideas debate between liberal and conservative, Democrat and Republican on the role of government. Because Republicans think that is an argument that they will always win with the American people, that government is best which governs least, and that big government is something that all Americans are afraid of. Do you think that they're right that they have an advantage on that? And do you think we're ready to finally have a national discussion about it?
Look, I would welcome that debate because I think the American people are saying something different. They want increased security at the airports. They want people to protect the quality of their food. They want people to figure out a way to reel in the abuses of big insurance companies. They're actually saying to us, we don't necessarily want a bigger government, but we do want a government that responds to the problems we had. We kind of had this debate in the campaign of 2008, and we won. When, for years we had had essentially none of these problems getting addressed either domestically or internationally. That was going on, and the American people said, of all political stripes, we have to start solving some of these problems. And I think to some degree the Republican Party is stuck in a place that they're bound to be even a permanent minority, because not only are they saying we want to do less, they're saying we want to do crazy things too. They've got this radical fringe element that's tugging them away from doing anything to solve problems. I think the abiding thing the American people want is problem solving. We're trying to solve problems on health care. We're trying to solve problems on the economy. We're trying to solve problems on student loans and on foreclosures. And the other guys are simply saying, no, we're not going to do any of that stuff, and we're not going to help you even with one vote on trying to get that done.
Democratic Congressman Anthony Weiner of New York, thank you for coming in on a Friday night and a holiday. It's good to have you here. Thank you.
My
nice
pleasure.
to see you.